Anyone wants to hear. So welcome to the first Texas Immersive Info Session. I am Erin Riley, and I'm the founding director of Texas Immersive. A little bit background on me. I have been, this is my third year of being a professor here at UT Austin. I was recruited by the Dean's Office to become the first director of innovation and entrepreneurship for Moddy College of Communication. So I wear multiple hats here. Not only do I oversee innovation and entrepreneurship initiative for the college, but my faculty position is in the Stan Richards School of Advertising and PR, where this is a new sequence in the advertising school. What's unique is that this sequence is the first interdisciplinary sequence for the advertising and PR school, meaning that more than 20% of the students participating in this program are from other disciplines across UT's campus. So I have had not only advertising and PR, but I have had RTF students, journalism students, education students, psych students, AET, integrated media, and it's a combination of, and computer science. And it's a combination of graduate and undergraduate students. So this just launched, the first cohort began this past year in 2021. I think we started in January 21 officially. So we have 2 cohorts, about 48 students are currently participating in the program, and I will only accept 48 students a year because this is who teaches you. So, you know, I can think of how many students I can handle until we continue to grow the program. So I'm going to stop here and let Daria and Janelle introduce themselves as well, because they are current explorers. So go ahead.
Hey y'all, I'm Daria. I'm a senior advertising student. I graduate in December, and I have been with Erin since before the beginning.
Yep.
Janelle and I were actually in the same class last fall. It was the first, or it wasn't the first, but it was experimental storytelling, which is the first Texas Immersive class.
No,
right?
it's the second.
No, audience,
Yeah.
right? But we designed the first acceptance kit. It was super fun, and we got to kind of flesh out the program with Erin a little bit. We get to be the guinea pigs, which is super fun. Yeah.
And Janelle?
I'm actually a second-year grad student at UT. So, like Daria said, we've been working with Erin and learning from Erin for about 2 years now. A year, going on a year, gonna be 2 years. And yeah, we worked on the Texas acceptance letter, which is super awesome. We got to do like real life work. We actually worked with the UT admissions office. And we're continuing to develop and you know, work on different things. I'm actually part of a committee within the program, and so I lead the awards and competitions committee. So we're just trying to get all the work that we are doing in the classes and through the program, and getting, you know, recognition for it, getting students you know, stuff to put in their portfolio and to get like, you know, prizes, and we want to put on our own competition as well. So that's something that we're working towards.
Great. So I have a quick presentation that I'll give, and then we'll open it up and hopefully answer all your questions. So let me just share my screen. There we go. I'll go to the beginning. Okay, this is Texas Immersive. So for those of you who don't know a lot about Immersive, really about 2019, a whole group of different sub-industries came together and wrote the first industry report to label Immersive as its own field. And they come from a variety of backgrounds, whether it's themed entertainment, theater, escape rooms, pop-up events. You notice I've experiential marketing, interactive museums. All of these are different places that have really been a part of the rise of immersive. You'll notice that in this rich history, I have not said augmented reality or virtual reality. To me, those are the technologies we use and think about and like explore through the practices of immersive. So, so AR, VR, MR, AI, IoT, I call it the acronym, the suitcase of acronyms, is umbrellaed under a term called extended reality. And extended reality are the technologies to explore the field of immersive. And if I was to define immersive in like a simple definition, I think it's interactive, experiential, and intimate. So there's always some sort of call to action. It's a different relationship between the creator and the audience. It's experiential, meaning that it's always a blend of physical and digital, that there's this kind of convergence of spaces that we're seeing even more today since March, of this convergence of spaces. And it's intimate because it should be personal. It should be always have an opportunity to personalize it to the user, even if there are multiple users in one spot. How is this just, okay. So the type of student I'm looking for in Texas Immersive is ones who are really willing to push the boundaries. They are not afraid of the blank page. In fact, they actually get excited about the blank page. So I think that Janelle and Daria can speak. I'm not a professor who gives you like specific details of what needs to be done. I like to call it guardrails. Like I give you guidelines on like what to stay within to solve big problems. And then your role as an experience designer is to like really explore immersive, is to go to town and kind of like really push the envelope as to what is to be expected. So this fear of failure, like if you're afraid, if you're really all worried about your grades or like failing, probably immersive isn't for you. If you're willing to really tinker, I call it thinkering, thinking while doing, and try new things and like be willing to be the first to be an early adopter, then immersive probably is the space for you. So this is a specialization in the Stan Richards School of Advertising and PR, but it's the first interdisciplinary sequence. So I look for students across majors at the University of Texas. I really believe it's all team oriented. So I really believe that the best teams are made up of hustlers, hackers, and designers, ones that are really willing to look at the cutting edge of the next digital trend and see problems that currently exist with new eyes. It's a convergence of disciplines. So we dive into audience development and engagement, storytelling and new narrative structures, emerging technologies like the ones I mentioned. And because I've ran innovation labs for 20 years now, I try teaching you the hard skills of becoming an innovator. So that way, when you go and find a job in an agency or in a studio, you really are probably the ones that innovation teams would be looking at to participate in. So there are 3 courses in this sequence. If you are an advertising PR major, I require that you complete and pass Advertising 325, which is Intro to Creative Advertising. I'm really loving that Rao is teaching that these days because he really understands the creative process. And I want you to have kind of that foundation. If you are not in advertising and PR, then I ask in the application that you provide me some information on creative courses you've taken in the past so that I get a feel for the type of creative process you've come from. There are 3 courses are in this order: audience development and engagement, experimental storytelling, and immersive experiences. You can take audience development and engagement and experimental storytelling together, but you have to complete the first 2 before you can get accepted into immersive experiences. These are really intense courses. I'll let Janelle and Daria speak to that. I expect a lot, so it's a lot to take 2 of classes at the same time, but so I offer audience in fall and spring, where I only offer experimental storytelling in fall, and immersive is always only in spring. So let me give you a little bit more details about each class. The first class is audience development and engagement. And here you really start to really solve and design for a problem. You have to start with an audience. And I take you through a framework on audience's intention, expectation, interaction, and relationship to space, whether it's digital or physical. And you begin to understand this framework by actually working in teams of 3 and choosing a fandom or choosing an audience, a culture you want to study. So this semester, students have broken up, and some have chosen beginning cooking communities to Twitch creative streamers, to rave culture, to what else have they done? Oh my God, they've done so much. Transgender community, communities, disability communities. It's a variety of communities. So you really dive into an audience. And then the goal is, by the end of audience development engagement, you're designing your first guest experience. So you've gone and learned qualitative research. I'm a qualitative researcher. I teach you about netnography, which my friend Robert Kozinets started about 15 years ago. It's a kind of, it's a virtual ethnography. So I help you learn how to actually elicit data in online communities and how to search for data in online communities to really get to know a fandom. And then I've moved sandbox demos to audience development engagement. So through expectation and interaction, you start playing with different emerging technologies, and you have to actually apply it to your audience that you're studying, so that by the time we get to relationship to space, you're designing an experience based around a problem from that community that you've learned about. So that's audience development engagement. What you see here is one of the key things the teams develop, which is an empathy map. And it's based on the data that you're collecting. So for the second course, it's on experimental storytelling. And here the students understand the expansion of mythology and archetypes. So I take you first through Campbell's Hero of the Journey, and then I push you to Jeffrey Gomez's work on the collective storytelling. And through that, you learn about simple stories to character design and development, to really kind of the relationship between story and technology, through one of the most important presentations I give, which is affordances of media. And it takes you from new screens to the next screen to no screen at all, tangible storytelling. Some of the projects the students are developing this semester is I've partnered with D-Box Technologies, which is a chair that you see in theaters, and they're wanting to move into the home, and students are creating videos that will be encoded to a tangible motion-based chair. So that's one. They're doing it for brands. And then we're going to do another project, which is a team-based project on, what are we doing? Totally blanking. I know our final project, oh, I know. Oh, a big project, Eyes on the Sky. So you'll learn about narrative structures. So I teach you about all the beginnings of designing an immersive experience with a project that I'm working on right now. And the students are going to design all the roles and development and actually start building interactive scripts beyond branching narrative, which is like basic choose your own adventure. We go so far beyond that. And then the third project is not a script writing project. It's actually you build out a prototype and a guest experience for a brand. And this semester we're working with Yeti, and we're taking all of Texas Media and Analytics data that they did in class and applying it to creating an immersive experience. So that's experimental storytelling. And then immersive experiences is most likely something you worked on in experimental storytelling during the writing example that you learn on writing narrative structures. We then apply it, and for 15 weeks as a class, you partner with other production classes that I've gotten together with. So I partner really closely with Sven Ortel, who's a faculty member in integrated media and design at College of Fine Arts. And I've also partnering with Deepak Chetty, who runs enhanced digital technologies at radio, TV, film. We all meet with, put our classes together, and build a huge immersive experience. If we can get in a studio, fingers crossed, that happens in spring. So that's the third course. It's some sort of immersive experience. We're figuring it out if we have to go hybrid. But it will really be like by the end, you'll have worked on a big immersive production and have that for your portfolio piece. And while we're doing this, this is a whole new field. So for graduate students, I expect by end of immersive experience that you're writing your thesis on immersive, because this is a whole new area of research that you can design and develop for. Just think of the D-box thing, tangible storytelling, thinking about motion and touch in regards to brands is a whole new area to apply your research to. So it's a convergence of discipline. These are some of the core goal learning objectives applied across all three of the courses: understanding motivational behavior, knowing how to blend digital and physical into a connected environment and experience. You'll understand technical skills. Starting an audience, I have you do software skill development, learning the basics of like Adobe, all the way to some augmented reality by intermediate, and then maybe touch designer, which is tangible screens, by your advanced level when you get by the time you finish experimental storytelling. So you really get some technical skills in this sequence, and you learn the hard skills of being an innovator so that you can leverage jobs that don't exist yet, which really is happening right now because we're in a whole new normal. So this is the application. It's a two-part process. It's already online and available to you. Part one is for you to give me some contact information. If there's a link for you to submit part two, if you're doing a digital experience, and in 1,200 words or less, I want to know what you know about immersive and why you're interested in Texas Immersive. So I've asked, give me an immersive experience you participated in and how it's impacted you in 1,200 words or less. And for the part two, you have to submit a media experience. So in your own terms, you define what is immersive through your own lens. You can use any media format. I've had sculptures. I've had Jenga games with connecting to text messaging. That's Janelle's. I have had interactive puzzle games online to make music. I've had like a music experience. I've had VR experience that I've downloaded and watched. I've had an AR experience. I've had multiple augmented reality experiences using things like Adobe Aero or Blipbar or Lens Studio. But it's a short, less than 5-minute experience just for me to see you kind of get into this space. So I like to say that immersive is about without change, there's no innovation, creativity, or incentive for improvement. I'm helping students become experience designers. So experience designers, in my mind, initiate change. They look for new opportunities and really helping to make change inevitable in our world, especially with this new normal. So apply now. It's due November 23rd at 12 p.m. You'll hear by the time the semester ends. I believe the goal is that it will launch, applications open. I already put it up there, but it opens Monday, October 26th for a whole month. Online application and submission is due November 23rd. And you will hear by Friday, December 4th, if you've been accepted via email. So that's a little bit about the program. Can Daria, Janelle, or I answer any of your questions?
I have a question. So are there different like concentrations within the program? Like I saw on the website, there was like UX designer, brand manager, stuff like that. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so it depends on the class as to what roles are available. So in audience, it's very research heavy. So you take on the role of researcher, writer, or designer over the 15 weeks, and you try on every one of those roles. In experimental storytelling, I do a solo project, and then I do 2 team projects, and 1 team of 3 and 1 team of 5. And in the solo project, I expect you to do your own work. And in the teams of 3, it's usually a writer, a designer, and a developer. except for, no, in teams of 3, it's the interactive storytelling. So y'all are all writing together, and you learn how to be a writing team, because I come from television and I'm used to being in a writing room. So you have to really learn how to write together. And then in the 5th one, everyone gets to pitch their idea. So everyone has an opportunity to pitch their idea to Yeti, but we do a democratic process of voting on what are the top 3, or however many students I have. Like if I have 20, if I have 15, I have 15 students this semester, and I break them into teams of 5. So so that's 3 projects this semester. If there's 25, it'd be 5 projects, because it would be teams of 5. And those teams of 5, the person's idea who gets chosen gets to be creative director, and then they have roles underneath them, which is a writer, an interactive designer, a developer, a multimedia artist, and the creative director. And then for immersive, every one of those roles that was in the 5 becomes teams. And this is what Daria and Janelle are used to. I've kind of split it. It used to be in experimental storytelling, but I needed y'all to practice a little more. So now in immersive, what Daria and Janelle got to experience in experimental storytelling was the whole class worked on a project. That happens in immersive. And just like working in a big studio or an agency, you get into teams or groups that have specialty. But specialty, it's not just going to be like copywriter and art director like you see in Texas Creative. In immersive, we need more people working in different roles. So you have a multimedia team, you got a development team, you've got a build team, because you've got physical and digital mixing together. So if you like woodworking, that might be and gluing things, that might be the space for you. A lot of stage crafting that comes from theater is finally put into immersive spaces, especially if you're doing pop-up events. All of that is like build. So I can't wait to have my maker studio for that in place. So that's build, writing, interactive designers, multimedia, and then creative director. So lots of different roles, in other words.
Okay, thank you. That makes sense.
Yeah. In the end, though, no matter what role you take, I feel like what I'm training you to do is to be an experience designer. So it's really best to try all those roles, because as an experience designer, you kind of need to hold them all in your head and know who you need to bring on your team to make your experience come to life. Oh, thank you. Other questions?
I saw Catherine put a question in the chat. She was just asking if we're allowed to be in the program while taking one of the prerequisite classes, like storytelling. Correct me if I'm said something wrong, Professor Riley. But basically, the prerequisite class will be the intro to creativity. If you're in the PR advertising, like if that's your main major, storytelling would be actually part of the sequence itself. So that's a class you would take once you are accepted into the immersive program.
That's correct. Yeah. When we first were getting off the ground, I let people in experimental storytelling, but now it's just immersive students. The only ones that are not explorers part of Texas Immersive is Sven Ortel's MFA students, and that's because we have figured out to have his studio MFA program meet with my experience designers for the 3rd course for us to really build out an immersive experience. Catherine, no, you do not need to take that class if you are not in advertising PR. I'm only requiring that for Stan Richards students. If you are not in Stan Richards School of Advertising and PR, that's if you're a grad or undergrad, Intro to Creative Advertising. But if you're not there, it will say, no, I'm not a Stan Richards student in the application. And instead it asks you, what are some creative courses you've taken, so I can do a comparison to that course. Does that make sense? Okay, great. Other questions? And feel free to ask Daria and Janelle anything about the program. Y'all are a quiet bunch. That's not like my class. Okay, well, if there's no more questions, then I will let you guys go. And who's interested in applying? Any of you? Just so I can gauge a number. 1,
Me.
2. Great. Okay, bye. Thanks, Janelle and Daria.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Good luck.
Bye.